Ready to break up with your bank, but stressed about having to redo all your direct deposits? With Amplify Credit Union's new tool, ClickSwitch, it's easy to make your money move. With just a few clicks, you'll be on your way to fee-free banking in less than 90 seconds.
Order up!
Before your coffee order is ready. Make the switch to fee-free banking and never pay another bank fee again with ClickSwitch from Amplify Credit Union.
It is a long and winding road, and one I never thought I would be in. I actually remember saying when I was first in my career, I do words, I don't do numbers. And I have since given lots of advice that says, don't ever say that. Like, don't ever limit yourself that way and have that perspective as if you can only do one thing.
Hi, my name is Mindy Hofman, and welcome to the Women of Austin podcast. Today, I'm so excited to have Stacy Armijo, the Chief Experience Officer of Amplify Credit Union, back on the show.
Hi.
Stacy!
Hello.
Ah, you're back.
Yay.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for taking the time.
I love being here.
Well, I know we've done this before, and I didn't warn you, but sometimes it's better that way.
I love surprises.
What is something people would be surprised to know about you that you haven't told us already when you've been on the show before?
Ooh, what would people be surprised to know about me? They would be surprised to know I am a terrible shopper.
Really?
I am an awful shopper. I find people who are good at shopping have a really good eye for visuals, and they are very patient. I don't have either of those two skills, and so I tend to be a very terrible shopper. So I actually end up doing my best shopping, what I call emergency shopping. So I have to be in an event in 30 minutes. How about I swing into the store and buy what they've got and then come back out? So that's something that most people might be surprised to know.
That I would imagine you having like planned ahead and thought it all through, and yeah, that is surprising.
Just in time close. That's me.
Oh my gosh. Well, you can't tell, so that's good.
Well, thank you.
So you are good at shopping, just like real quick shopping.
in small bites.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun. Well, I wanted to have you back to get to know you better because we've talked about, we've had you in groups and talked about other things, but I want to know how Stacy became the Chief Experience Officer at Amplify because, little spoiler alert, she never thought she'd go into banking. So what is the journey that got you to banking?
It is a long and winding road, and one I never thought I would be in. I actually remember saying when I was first in my career, so my career started in public relations and communications, and I remember saying, I do words, I don't do numbers. And I have since given lots of advice that says, don't ever say that. Like, don't ever limit yourself that way and have that perspective as if you can only do one thing. But that was the person I was. So I studied public relations in college, and I worked for a public relations and marketing firm for most of my career. And but I have another philosophy, which is trust in others' good opinion of you. So I never would have known that banking is a thing I would enjoy, a thing I would have any aptitude for. It wasn't even on my radar in any kind of way. But I know people who work in areas like this and particularly with Amplify, and I respect the way that they approach the world. And so when they say, will you come do this thing because I think you'd be really good at it? My first reaction is to say, what, are you crazy? Like, I can't do that. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. And I'll tend to point to lacking experience. And then they'll say, yeah. But I know the things you can do, and I think you'd be really good at this. And so I have learned that's happened to me a few times in my career over the course of certain projects that I've taken or certain clients or certain situations. And in each case, I've tried to be honest about what I believe to be my limitations or lacking experience. But if they understand that and they still think it's the right call, then I have always said yes. It's turned into Well, I definitely know I have something to learn. That satisfies one of my 3 Gs of giving, growth, and gratitude. Obviously, the growth part is going to be there. And I have never been disappointed. Every time I think I have come to discover, certainly I learned a ton.
Yeah.
And I've come to discover what it was other people saw in how I do things that is applicable to something I never would have known I could be interested in, or didn't even know it existed. Some of my favorite clients and client projects were in companies and industries I did not know existed before I got involved in working with them. I can bore people to tears with like technical things like, would you like to know about the significance of days on market in real estate? Because I can tell you, no one wants to know that, by the way. No one asked me questions about that. But it's all of those opportunities have given me those moments. And so that's how I came to the role that I have now. And what I find is when you find yourself in a place where you can't rely on experience to guide the way, curiosity is your best friend. And I am a naturally curious person. And so no one expected me to show up to this job and have all the answers. I showed up and I asked a lot of questions and I listened to what people said. I mean, hopefully I'm bringing forward some of what I know from other roles too. But for the most part, I'm listening and learning and then reacting. And I have found that has helped me approach this job in, I think, what is probably a little bit more of a refreshing way. So Amplify is an organization that wants to do things different. One thing our CEO says all the time is, we want to fix what's wrong with banking or we're going to die trying. He says it all the time. And if you want, as an organization, if you want to do something different, there is an advantage to bring somebody in who doesn't know all the reasons why it won't work.
Ooh,
And so that's been really helpful.
that's so smart. I mean, not surprising. But yeah.
It's been, and you know, what's interesting is I used to see this a lot with clients when I would work with lots of different organizations. They would say something like, we want a totally fresh perspective. We want something really new here. We really want to be bold and be different. And then, they would hire somebody that either has exactly the same background as every other person in the industry or that has been in the role before, or they hire somebody from the outside and then get upset when they don't already know all of the things about how to get things done. That organizations, I think there's a big gap between organizations that want to be innovative and organizations that are innovative. And I think that's one of the big differences is the way that you welcome fresh perspectives and what you do with those without believing everything that came before is wrong. And so when somebody comes in from the outside, so often they think either they have all the answers or they come in and say things like, I can't believe this is happening this way, and I can't believe that. It's like they think they're building credibility by being the smartest person in the room. And I like to remind people that do that, you do realize the most recent decision this organization made was to hire you.
Oh, yes.
So if you really think everyone here is so lost and how could they possibly have done anything before you arrived, you might want to question their judgment on the whole. That doesn't seem to work very well for people.
It makes so much sense, though. I love it.
So figure out what's working. And so that's why when I say I ask a lot of questions, when I come into a role that I'm not familiar with, I am most curious about what is working about what's happening right now, not what needs to change. Everybody wants to talk to you about what needs to change. This is bad and that's bad and whatnot. And you want to understand that. Yeah. But I want to know what's working because there is a rational and logical and probably effective reason for why we arrived to the decision we did today. And have conditions changed to where that's no longer the best decision? Maybe, and we should do something different in the future. Have conditions not changed and that's still the right thing to do? Then we should keep doing that. Was there not really a good reason why we started to do it to begin with? Sometimes there's not. Sometimes it's so-and-so's buddy wanted to do such and such and they really believed in that and so that's why we ended up there. Cool, now I know that there's not any more substantive reason than that, then there's no risk to changing that one. But if I didn't ask the question, we did a 2-year consulting engagement that isolated this particular problem. We changed these 3 things and we landed in that place for that reason. If I didn't ask the question, I don't know the difference between those 2 things. And I've gotten both of those answers around very significant things. And so you have to know what to keep before you can know what to change. And then it also expresses some respect for the people around you that they actually know what they're doing, and they did not need somebody, prophet in a foreign land to come in and tell them all the ways and all the things that they didn't know. They feel respected that you took the time to understand what they did. And then when you offer a new idea, they tend to be a little more receptive.
I love that. So do you guys use consultants often?
We do. So we use consultants on a regular basis in a variety of ways. And I have found, because I was a consultant for so long, I had I'm going to call it an overdeveloped sense of confidence about how to shape a consulting engagement, how to choose a consultant, et cetera. And we use them in a whole lot of different ways. In some cases, it's relevant to things like, branding and communications and things like that. In other cases, it's more operational in nature, like technical systems and consulting on integration, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I have found that it can be really hard to find consultants that are helping you create success. And what I have learned in doing that is hiring consultants is a lot like hiring employees. You don't know what you've got until you've got it. And on both sides, right? Like the consulting firm doesn't know if we're a good client. We've got to be a good client for that consulting relationship. There are things a consultant needs from their client to be successful. And so we've got to be prepared to be a good client the same way an employer has to be prepared to be a good employer for an employee to succeed. So we've got some obligation in that.
Yeah.
On the other side of that, though, is there is what you say and there is what you do. And so understanding the gap between those, the same way some people are really good at interviewing when they're employees and then they get in the job and it turns out differently, consulting engagements can be really similar. Some consultants are really good at the pitch and then not so good at the follow through. And so I've learned, I start most of my consulting relationships as pilot engagements now. So it's like we try to define something specific that is, okay, here's this thing that we think we want to accomplish. Here's a defined time period within which we think we want to accomplish it. And can we both agree that is achievable and that makes sense? And if we do, okay, great, let's work together and do it. Let's them try us out. Let's us try them out. And then I have found when those are successful, those become the long-term, never have to question them consultant relationships. So I find that's an advantage to us and to the consulting firm.
Yeah, I love that.
How could we do this without putting our institution in financial trouble? And we kept digging, and what we kept finding became more and more encouraging. And along the way, we did a lot of research on who pays these fees.
Thank you so much for joining us for this special bonus episode of the Women of Austin podcast. Thanks to our friends at Amplify Credit Union, we're excited to announce that Season 3 will kick off on Thursday, March 28th at 6 p.m. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's a good time to do it. Plus, be sure to tap that notification bell so you never miss a new episode, dropping twice a month here on our YouTube channel. We love you for watching and supporting Women of Austin. Today we're shooting at Picturesque Point, a beautiful home available for short-term rental here in Austin, ideal for friends and family. Casual and elegant, this property is your perfect home away from home, sleeping up to 16 guests. You can tour this home online at the link in the description of this episode. I'm really interested in fee-free banking, and I know that is after Stacy started.
It is.
So did you use consultants for that, or was that all internal? Like, how did that, well, first, if you could tell our audience, if they don't know already, what fee-free banking is and how Amplify figured it out.
Absolutely.
And then, we'll go from there.
Okay. It's so, as you know, we get pretty excited about this. So
yes.
We are the first, and to my knowledge, still only, entirely fee-free banking institution in the country. So it is impossible for any depositor with any balance or any behavior to incur any kind of fee ever. And we've learned we have to say it that way because no one believes us.
Yeah.
So our industry has been touting free checking for so long that everyone says, oh, well, yeah, I got free checking, I've got this. Oh, well, but is it free if you have to pay for a wire transfer? Is it free if your balance falls below X amount, et cetera? In the world of Amplify, all of those things are actually free. So we still have all the same services that we ever have, which is wire transfers, overdraft protection, and all there were 50 some odd fees that we turned to zero. 50.
That's a big task.
So I have a scavenger hunt for your viewers to listen to and look at. Is go to your bank's website and just type in the search bar fee schedule. That's what an institution calls it, is a fee schedule. We now call it our schedule of no fees. So we actually kept what used to be our fee schedule. It's the list of services that you have to pay for if you want to use your bank account. That's kind of how it works. And so ours are now all zeros. I would encourage anyone listening or watching to go and look at their banks, and I'm going to predict that it has, so we actually already had a small number of, so 50 was actually a small number of fees, typically 50 to 75 different fees that you could get on your checking and savings accounts. And they average anywhere between, I bet the lowest is going to be like $15 to more commonly 35 to maybe as much as 50 for individual services. And we have none of those now. So that is, we are the only financial institution that we are aware of, or that anybody we've talked to is aware of, that has banking services of that nature.
How did this come to be? I mean, I'm just picturing you guys in a room already with an amazing credit union, like established in the community. How can we push harder to do more to give back to those who can't afford these fees? Is that kind of how the meeting went? Or, I mean, I'm sure it took time, but like
it did.
This is fascinating. I love that you guys did this.
So it's interesting. It actually started as a marketing idea, and it became more of a mission. So specifically speaking, Fee Free started when we had engaged some research. So yes, there were some consultants involved. We actually hired some consultants to do some research for us. Specifically, the question was, what makes a checking and savings account compelling to a consumer, and what makes them want to switch? So I have learned there's a lot of what this industry calls conventional wisdom. And when you start asking questions, people say things like, oh, this always happens all the time. People always do this. These things always occur. And then you start asking questions to say, oh, okay, is that what we see in our business? Well, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like that. So there's a lot of truisms in banking that aren't really true. And so when we said, okay, well, why would people bring us their new checking and savings accounts? We didn't really have a fact-based answer to that question. We had a whole lot of opinions. And so we did this research to say, well, let's find out. So we did research that was consumers at large as well as Amplify members specifically. And so the research firm was coming in and presenting the findings of this. And there were two primary things that they found. One was we were wondering if security is one of those pieces. So being able to keep your account secure and your card secure, et cetera. Yes, that is a high motivational factor. However, it is considered table stakes and no one wants to pay you any money for it. So it is very important, but it is something that consumers tend to assume everybody has, and we already had it. And so that wasn't going to be our differentiator. Short of that, there is this battle between fees and rewards. So you can either earn rewards, so this is all the promotions, right, that you can have with different bank accounts, or you can avoid fees. And we have long had what our industry calls a fee-averse membership. So we already had, our members don't like to pay those fees, and they maintain balances and behaviors that mean they avoid them generally. So that was already a part of who we were. And so our CEO was in the room along with all of our other executive team talking about these things. And we're looking at these findings, and he says, what if we just got rid of them? And we all laughed. Like the whole room was like, oh, that's funny, because he's a pretty funny guy. And so we legit all thought he was making a joke. And he just looked around like, what if we got rid of him? And it was like, well, what, huh? It's like everybody's, like maybe he hasn't had enough coffee today.
Yeah.
I don't know. But from that day forward, I could not get that idea out of my mind. And so then we started digging in of like, okay, well, how much are these fees of our income? And how much, and we dug and dug and dug and realized this is achievable. Like this could be fiscally achievable. How could we do this without putting our institution in financial trouble? And we kept digging, and what we kept finding became more and more encouraging. And along the way, we did a lot of research on who pays these fees. So we hadn't really looked before. And I think that's typical for financial institutions. You aren't really dissecting who's paying these different fees, and in particular, who's paying overdraft fees. Spoiler alert, not the people with money. That's not who's paying overdraft fees. Also, that's not who's paying all of the other fees as well. And so
all the other fees too?
All of it, because so when I talk about fee free to folks who are affluent and maintain balances, the most common reaction I get is, oh, I don't pay fees anyway. It's like, okay, cool, because you have balances high enough where you get to avoid that. So do we think a system is equitable where the person who keeps less than $500 in their checking account to pay bills, they're the one who should pay $20 a month instead of the person who keeps $10,000? That's how this system works. This system of banking works really well for people who have money. The system of banking is not designed for people who have a small amount of money. And so we discovered this along the way. We also discovered something about overdraft that was very disturbing, which was the people who are using overdraft are the people who have the least amount of funds. And we had most folks that used it were using it, I would call it as designed. A couple times a year, it was obviously a convenience. That is the whole purpose of it. So not concerning. But we found a very small number of our members who delivered the vast majority of our overdraft fee income. And it's because they were using it constantly. Many times a month on the regular. And it's like we had to look up and say, we're a credit union. We say our mission is about improving the financial lives of our members and the strength of our community. We cannot make money this way. This is not okay. We cannot offer a product that allows folks to do this. It's not right. And so it started as a marketing thing, and then it evolved into more of a mission. And I think that was really helpful, because when it then turned into, all right, how do we actually do this? Yeah. Had it just been maybe we can get some more checking and savings accounts out of this. Yeah. It wouldn't have been worth the risk, because there was so much risk to it. Because everyone that we spoke to was like, the first reaction is you're crazy. Yeah. And then the second reaction is you can't do that. And even to the point where actually being able to accomplish this, we had to get our technology partners involved, because we had to make our systems work differently, because our systems are designed to deliver fee income. And so turning off the charging of fees actually was more of a technical problem than you would guess. And so there were all of these hurdles we had to get past. The fact that it became a mission and we sort of understood not just what did we want for the business out of it, but who do we really want to serve with this? Mm-hmm. That's what kept us committed to it, and that's why it's become really a part of our mantra. Yeah.
Well, I know that you guys are so involved in the community and you're doing so much. I wish we could sit here and talk about it all day, but we're almost out of time. But girl, you're coming back, right?
I liked
it. So how can people sign up for fee-free checking? And for people who aren't in Austin, can they?
Yes,
what's the deal?
I'm so glad you asked, because one of the biggest misconceptions about credit unions is that you can't be a member. Anyone who lives in Texas is qualified to be a member of Amplify Credit Union. And all you have to do is go to goamplify.com, and you'll see where you can sign up right there. You can open and fully fund your account online in 15 minutes.
15 minutes?
15 minutes.
And I feel crazy, but you say to become a member. I feel like there should be a fee to become a member, but
there's not, because it's fee-free.
I love it. I love it so much. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming, and I know that we've been talking about fee-free at our events and stuff, and it's just so nice to have it all broken down and to get to spend more time with you and to hear your story about how you ended up in banking, and with your attitude to say yes, and how that got you to where you are. And I'm so happy to know you. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you'd like more information on everything Stacy is doing at Amplify Credit Union, be sure to check out the links in the description. I look forward to seeing you back for our next episode of the Women of Austin podcast.